Alaska, the word subsistence has become a catch-all for a complex legal and political situation around who should have priority hunting and fishing, and when. Over the past several years, the debate has become increasingly divisive, exacerbating gaps in understanding between Alaskans of different cultures and different walks of life. In 1998, the Alaska Friends Conference, or Unprogrammed Quakers, began working together with the American Friends Service Committee to launch a compassionate listening project, Alaskans Listening to Alaskans About Subsistence. The project seeks to learn firsthand about fellow Alaskans' experiences, values, concerns, hopes, and fears, and to help Alaskans understand one another better, regardless of where the legal and political turmoil takes them.
Subsistence in a native community, in any native community, is being able to survive, learning how to put up food in the season whenever it comes around.
I raised her in Angoon. 1917. We always travel around to dry fish from Tyee all over. We dry about 700 fish for our family. That's our food. Indian food is our food.
I have lots to tell about Yangon. We have subsistence that we have here in Yangon, and we go down the beach anytime we want for our food, and then some of the men go out hunting to get deer, seal, and then when the tide is done we get clams, carpals, and there's a lot of things that we eat, we live on.
Anscombe not only took care of the land issues, but it also took care of our hunting and fishing rights. And it did it without asking us.
Federal law requires a rural priority in Alaska for subsistence use of fish and game, and defines the cities of Juneau, Anchorage, and Fairbanks as urban. Alaska state law requires that all Alaskans, including those in urban areas, be eligible for a subsistence priority. Because of this difference, federal and state lands in Alaska are managed separately, and Alaskans in both cities and villages feel that their access to fish and game is in jeopardy.
I think though the way to look at this video too thing is I think you need to show how much, like I said, how much fish and game we actually use. I mean, based on the fish and game data, whatever, and to show how much the sport fishermen are taking and who's showing the greatest increase.
According to statistics from the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, when you look at total harvest of fish and wildlife in Alaska, commercial uses are 97.5%, subsistence 2.5%, and sport use less than 1%. It is important to note that in this summary, commercial fisheries dwarf all other uses by sheer volume. Without commercial fisheries, or looking at game animals alone, the picture can change dramatically, and also differs from region to region. One way to understand changes in non-subsistence, non-commercial use of Alaska's resources is to look at the number of sport licenses issued over time. While resident and non-resident sport game licenses have remained fairly stable over the last 3 decades, resident sport fish licenses have more than doubled, and non-resident sport fish licenses have more than quadrupled. Villages in or near popular fishing areas are bound to feel the change. "60 miles southwest of Juneau, on the southwest coast of Admiralty Island, is the village of Angoon. Angoon, a Tlingit village of about 600 people, is the only community on Admiralty which is famed for its brown bears. Kutsnawu, the name of the inlet off Angoon, means Fortress of the Bears. With declining fish prices and few jobs, Angoon relies heavily on subsistence. The sale of alcohol is banned in the village. In 2002 and 2003, Alaskans Listening to Alaskans visited Angoon to learn about life here and how it is affected by the subsistence controversy.
Today, we still live a subsistence way of life. And it's getting harder for us sometimes. Go to their favorite area to catch fish, or smoking, because some people don't appreciate our way of life.
With the subsistence issue, it's not an issue that's going to be here now and then get better. It's an issue that's been with us forever. We have to fight for the food that we get.
We depend on this meat all our lives, our grandfathers before us, and this is our way of life. We, like some people say, the little piece of meat you get from the store, you have to pay an arm and a leg for that. So what we do is, when the deer season comes on, is we jar it, we dry it, we salt it, and we preserve it in ice box. We have all that, but this year we haven't had no deer, hardly any deer. So that leaves us going to the store more often for our meat, and that's very costly. Huna got their, where they do their subsistence, there's a line around there, their territory at Huna, you know where Huna, Alaska is. And I kind of go for that idea that we do something like that for Admiralty Island. The reason why I am saying that is, for many years, there's been people coming in from different parts of Alaska. When they come in, they really deplete it to the point of almost not having any deer around on the island. And
when land claims came about, Angoon selected off Admiralty. And I believe it's because the elders saw that the land has always provided Angoonians with a way of life. It always provided deer through hunting and fish, and so it always provided for us. Jobs come and go, money comes and goes, but as long as we're here and there's a healthy resource, the salmon, the deer, it provides for many of us. When subsistence regulations first came into play, deer was not recognized a subsistence species, and deer is one of the main animals harvested in Angoon that provides for a lot of the meat. The subsistence users, who spend a lot of their time going out hunting, fishing, and gathering, have very limited amount of time to go in and put forth proposals and provide input to the rules and regs. So I think but the state laws, as I see it, puts the burden of providing for subsistence rules and regulations on the subsistence users. By having them put forth a proposal and having them prove that they use it, even though it's common sense that, or at least in my opinion, and I assume in many people's opinion, that we lived here, we lived off the land, and for generations on end.
Well, now a lot of our income, we don't do commercial fishing anymore. We don't do hand trolling anymore. The jobs have just depleted out of our community. I'm a part-time worker now. I do part-time with Boys and Girls Club, and I do a breakfast club where we feed kids in the morning. But that's so meager in a community where the prices are so costly that we have to depend on subsistence to keep our families alive.
I wish the state of Alaska, the governor, would come and listen. I wish our representatives from Washington, D.C. would come and come to the rural communities and listen. Even though our numbers may be small in our community, that Ted Stevens and the governor of Alaska is still responsible to us, for us, good or bad. And I think that they should stand up and do what is right. If the governor came here, we'd say that the unemployment rate, because of the unemployment rate, subsistence is a bigger factor in my life, in my children's life, and my grandchildren. Subsistence is very important.
You hear them say that they do all these studies on how it's going to impact different areas when they do certain things. Right now the legislature's trying to figure out what's going to happen with subsistence. You never hear any of them except our own representative come here and try to figure out how it's going to impact us and what we think about it. And it seems to me like they don't really, completely understand how it does affect living here in a small town. It's almost like they don't care. They just want the problem to go away. That's kind of the impression I get anyway. I mean, I don't see people coming out here to try to figure out how to solve the problem.
Back in the territorial days, under the federal government, we were never bothered by the regulators. Not once did they ever come to the village and say, people are going to have a permit to go up the rivers and get your subsistence salmon. They never done that. The fact is, they never came around and preached subsistence to us. They let us live it. When the state came in, it was a different story altogether, different picture altogether. They got a little bit harsh towards our people.
When you do take the fish from up there, they want you to cut fins off. Well, people dry fish here, and there's certain fins you can't cut off the fish, for drying. And if you do, it's ruined. So that's another regulation they have. It's crazy, A couple years ago, some people were fined big for doing that, and for why,
I know that the majority is trying to push its beliefs on us, but with the issue of subsistence, it has nothing to do with majority or minority. It just has to do with our sustained lifestyle. But I keep grasping to find out what you're looking for. The state constitution says that we should be equal. We should all have equal access to it. But I don't believe that. I think that's the worst way, because we all know for a fact that we've been doing this lifestyle forever, and it's not going to change. I mean,
on the subsistence issue is providing equal access to the resources by all Alaska Natives. This is a difficult task, and because this subsistence issue strikes to the very core of our existence and our being, a lot of natives are taking this as a native versus non-native issue, or a native versus industry issue.
Pretty safe bet to
the commercial fishermen that come from Washington up here have never been to the salmon streams and seen the effect by their fishing, what it's having on the salmon streams, because they've never been there. I'd be willing to bet some of them don't even know where we catch our fish from. And the effect of what they're doing, it affects us. And I don't think that matters to them. Everything has its reason for being there. You start putting in fish farms and everything like that, you're pretty much messing with the balance of nature. Out here, everybody's lived here and hunted around here, fished around here their whole lives. And now you got people coming in from in the cities with their big boats and fishing out here because they switched the IFQ to IFQs and halibut. So now instead of fishing out there and where they're used to been, they come in here because the weather's nice. Usually they fish out on the ocean because they catch a lot more fish in a short amount of time. But now they don't. They have, where they used to have 24 hours to catch what they can, now they can do it in 7 months. So they could spend the whole 7 months out here fishing, just fishing these grounds as hard as they could, not leaving anything for us. I'm not saying this is our fish, but it does affect our way of living here by them being here.
You know, we have to explain to somebody out there that we're native and this is what we do for a living. Why should we have to explain to someone else? This is what we do.
Responding to regulations that don't fit how people live, Angoon has led successful efforts to shape subsistence management to be more responsive to local needs. Because of Angoon's work, Southeast Alaska villages now have a January deer hunt and a subsistence halibut allocation. The village is working with wildlife managers to monitor salmon and to implement local management with education instead of law.
We are part owner, but the law they make is altogether different from our law. We have Indian law also.
We had a meeting with Department of Fish and Game on a teleconference meeting, and Matthew Kesha hooked us up with Department of Fish and Game and Forest Service, and they were asking if we wanted to set a regulation change on that. We said no, we wanted to have a local education response on that so that we could manage that resource ourselves so that it could replenish itself. What's going on is we have concern over the numbers of sockeye in Kanalku Lake and also in Basket Bay. And the stock was healthy in Sitco Bay. But the first year after the sockeye stock assessment fish monitoring crew went across there, they found that there's only approximately 245 fish in Kanalku Lake. And so there was a lot of concern about low numbers of sockeye in the lake, and so what we did was we set we put into motion a voluntary set of voluntary moratorium on Kanalku Lake so that we could build the stock. After the first year of the program, we found that there was approximately 3,000 fish within that lake. So it did make a big difference on the regulating the area on a voluntary basis, because now that the numbers are going up, we will have that stock as a resource for tomorrow and the future generations.
You look at how they told us there was a problem with Kanalku Lake, and that if we didn't stop fishing up there, there wouldn't be any fish. So pretty much the town here and the men with the seines and everything decided we could stop fishing up there for a couple of years until the stocks got better. That was a voluntary thing. You ask any other fishery to do that, they're not going to want to do it because it's about money for them. Here it's about something we're used to having all the time. And to tell us it's not going to be there if we keep doing what we're doing, it worries you. You don't want the stocks to go away.
Although this effort is showing success, there's concern that more remains to be done.
It's a fisherman that is fished in the still water for halibut on different occasions. And this is a while back when Point Samuel was closed. And at that time, I could see the sockeyes working their way up into Mitchell Bay going toward Kanaku. Until Fish and Game starts hearing the concerned people of our community of Angoon. Until they close Point Samuel, we don't have a chance. They have to close Point Samuel. There will be no reproduction of the sockeye salmon up into Kanaku as long as Point Samuel remains open every year.
There's a chapter in U.S. history that is still remembered in Angoon. In 1882, an accident on board a whaling vessel of the Northwest Trading Company killed a shaman from Angoon, the second accidental death of an Angoon employee that season. The community demanded 200 blankets customary compensation for each man. The Northwest Trading Company refused. A group of men from Angoon took 2 white employees hostage, and though the captives were released unharmed, the U.S. Marines retaliated by shelling the village. Marines sank all but one canoe in the village, set fire to the houses, and systematically destroyed the community's food caches. 2 men and 6 children died in the attacks, and villagers tell of elders who died that winter from refusing food so that others might survive. Angoon did survive the lean times brought on by the bombardment, and the same skills that got the village through then are the backbone of life today. People here work hard to pass on their traditions.
Our people have a strong feeling towards our relations, especially our grandfathers and our uncle. That's the way we were brought up. And I learned a lot from my grandfather, subsistent way of life.
My dad used to say that's why we pass our stories down from generation to generation without putting it on paper. He said I see in the future the people losing their knowledge. He said when the deal comes in play, the computer, he said the lack of knowledge from all human beings is lost. I said, how come? He said, then once you tell a story to somebody's going to stay up here. But once you put it on paper, your brain's going to say, oh, I kind of forgot this, so I pick it up and read it.
Yeah.
So he says, now that's how humans are. They're dependent on something they put down in black and white, but yet the best computer man had was your brain.
One thing I taught my kids, when you get food, don't waste it. I said, so I showed them how to put up everything. We don't try to waste food and
I'd like to pass that on to my kids and let them see what it is to live by yourself. We get something, we share it with each other. And like I say, my kids, that's what I've taught them all their lives. I like to see that happen, because we're not going to live forever and tell them what to do, how to do it. When you're growing into it, you do it by yourself. But you know, you grow into it, and you're gonna do it for your kids, and you're gonna teach them what to do. And that's what it's all about. When you look at it, it's fun to do things like that, because you don't have to go to the store to buy it. It's there. It's there.
That is very scary to me to know that someday I might not be here. I won't be scared because my kids won't do it. I know they'll continue our heritage of providing for their families. This is Desiree. She goes picking gumboots. She goes up inside to get fish. Every time we go out, she goes out with us because we want her to learn to do this when she gets older, because we want the pride that we have to go on with her, because it's so important for her family. And that's how I feel that I got to do it, is the love of my dad wanted me to succeed. It's the same love that I have for this little girl, and she does do it. The pride that my dad has seen all his great-grandchildren do this is something that's going to live with us forever. Right, Desiree?
And I believe if we keep our subsistence, our people will survive. I know that.
When my son got that seal, I smoked the meat, and I made the seal grease out of the fat. I was surprised how much seal grease I got out of that one whole seal. At half the time, I made 5.5 cases.